This is Halloween. This is Halloween. 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 Okay, technically it's November, but I'm late as usual. Also, if you play Christmas songs in November, you should be ashamed of yourself. So today I got an entire week's worth of work to catch up on, because instead of doing my casebook over the weekend like a good person, I decided to go home and watch the rugby with my parents. So first off, we had intro to the making of. And for the past few weeks, we've been learning how to make a background, so for that session we just learned how to make a moving background. So in those scenes where you get like a car moving along the road and there's like mountains or hills moving in the background, that's like a looped animation which someone has made in Photoshop. And so we learned how to do that, which was very complex because I was sitting at the back, so I couldn't really see what was happening. I think with a lot of these things, the concept sounds very simple, and then I get to do it, and it's really not like that at all. At this rate, I generally think that the only thing I'm going to be able to do to a decent standard is stop-mo, because I like doing that. But considering the stop-mo industry is, dead, I'm not going to be able to make much of a career in that. And the reason I'm speaking like this, by the way, is because of the introduction to creative play session, which I shall get onto in a moment. But yeah, summary of our intro to making of. It was useful. I managed to do it in the end, but it was a little bit difficult to understand. So my improvements for next time would be to sit at the front, which isn't so good for me because, anxiety. So next up we had intro to creative play, and our sessions this week were pretty unorthodox. So the first session we basically learned about different diagrams and basically how to make a casebook properly. And such diagrams included stuff like Bloom's taxonomy, which is basically a pyramid explaining how you can become a creative genius in 7 simple steps. No, it's 6. No, that makes it easier then. And then for the casebook, we were just told what to do and what not to do, which was a little bit annoying considering that we're 6 weeks in and we're just now being told what to do for the casebook. This is my 7th entry, I think, so would have been nice to have that a little earlier. And then for the second session, we learned about psychogeography, which isn't about how to find psychos. It's not like Pokemon Go for psychos, which would actually make police officers' lives a lot easier. Nope, for an hour we became flâneurs, which is French, and it means a person who saunters around a city and looks at it. That's it. Technically it's like observing society. So an example we got was this guy saw an old man sit on a bench all day for months on end, and then he got his friend to film just walking past this person, and then he came back the next day and the man was gone. And that was all very woo. Yeah, this is sort of why I didn't really get on with my English teachers, because to me it just felt like they were weeding a little bit more into what was actually there concerning just walking around and looking at things I walk past every day. Yeah, it's good to observe things you wouldn't usually, but I just didn't really see the point of all of it, really. It was just a bit dramatic. So with that in mind, when we were told to report back to our HQ, aka the very cold base room, and basically draw our findings on the map, I took it very seriously indeed. And here we are. It's a little bit faded because I did it in pencil and not pen, so I'll spread it out in a bit. But basically, we were told to draw all the things that we saw, and no, that was it. We were just told to draw everything that we saw that we found interesting or we noticed. So basically everything, really. So first of all we went into the little Blue Peter garden, which is right outside,
and we're basically told to observe that. And I saw a leaf blower, and this made me annoyed because I don't own leaf blower, and I really wanted to enact the Amazon ad where that old guy gets a leaf blower and he blows his daughter on a swing, and it looks so cool. And then we went on, and there was a statue which made me hungry because it looked a bit like a pretzel. Yeah, I'll put an image in to make up for the fact that my drawing is terrible, but yeah, it's a pretty accurate representation of what it was. And then there was also some really deep water which you couldn't see the bottom of, and that made our tutor very, very upset indeed, because she couldn't see the bottom, and what if a massive monster came out of the deeps and killed us all? And so, yeah, I drew a shark, because Jaws. And then there was a pigeon who was looking at me funny and making weird noises. So I drew that, because... then comes the most exciting part of our journey around. A couple of the people in my group apparently do parkour for some reason. So yeah, they were just doing some parkour. And then we saw some geese, and that reminded me of the Untitled Goose Game, which is a game I really want to play. And then we found some dog poop, which was lovely. By the way, the image isn't an accurate representation of what happened. I just drew that for comedic effect. On the way back, I saw a bike which was black, but it had orange rims. And as any person with a brain will tell you, anything black with orange rims, like a car or bike, whatever, that looks awesome. So, yeah, that made me jealous. And then, finally, there was a number 50 bus, which one of our group tried to go on, but was pulled off because he wanted to go home. And to be fair, at that point I did too, because I was cold and I was tired and I didn't really understand what we were doing outside. Oh, and I didn't know what to fill the gap with, so I did me running a dinosaur holding a lightsaber with Jesus. And yeah, he's wearing glasses in that photo, because why not?
So, yeah, a bit of a mixed bag for Introduction to Creative Play, and if I'm honest, Animation 101 and Animation Context weren't exactly much better. So Animation 101 was alright, because it was Halloween week. They got a pumpkin mould and asked us to carve it, and I didn't really manage to do that very well. I think the computers were lagging a lot, so I managed to get something done. I managed to get some sort of like creepy ghoul face in there, but it wasn't really much of the great pumpkin carving stuff that you see nowadays, because, you know, everyone's an artist. As I have already stated, I've had problems with Maya in the past, and this occasion was no different. So, it wasn't I mean, it was kind of fun, and I was definitely looking forward to it when I mentioned it, because, you know, digital pumpkin carving sounds amazing. But whether it was the computer or... I don't know. It was definitely lagging though, unless I was doing something wrong, in which case, yeah. But same result is, I wasn't very pleased with my result. I would have liked it done better. If I've got a picture of it, I'll put it up. But if not, it basically had two big eyes, and then a mouth, and then there was a sort of cross section in between, so you could tell where the eyes ended and the mouth began, and it wasn't really anything special. But yeah, that was, I guess, useful, because it reiterates the fact that I'm good at Maya if it's easy. And then at the end of Animation 101, we got another task, which is very interesting. And we are going to have to make a film which has two cubes interacting with each other. We can use whatever sort of format we want, so I'm definitely going to do stop-mo. But the point is, it's got to be two cubes interacting with one another. So that's going to be fun. At the moment, the only ideas I have are something like Grandma's footsteps. You know, like, cube turns around, then another cube behind him is moving, then they turn back and the other cube stops, and yeah. So I reckon I could do something cool with that. But yeah, looks good. We are a little bit limited because they're cubes and they can't really throw any punches or jump out of buildings doing explosions. But yeah, so that is a little bit of a bummer. But it's actually a challenge, but not the sort of challenge like I can't do this. It's more of a that's a challenge that I accept. And then for animation context, we just did mind training. So there's this really great book which Johnny showed us, which was like all these tasks which had been attempted by adults and children and creative geniuses, and they're meant to help you train your mind into quick thinking for ideas. So there was one we did that was like name as many ways as you can think of for how to why you would put on lipstick, and you only had 30 seconds to write them all down. And I got a pretty average score because there was like a scoring system where you had to, if you didn't get 7, then you know you weren't that creative, and then you got like a point or so for every answer you got over 7, and yeah. But it was actually really fun because it reminded me of my younger days when I definitely was much more creative. But I don't really want to talk about that because it involves digging up some dark stuff. But yeah, definitely need to become more creative and start training my mind. So I might even borrow that book because it's 365 puzzles, so you can basically do one every day. And just when we thought we'd had enough of diagrams and cycles, Johnny gave us some more to think about, which was great, considering that we just had the same lecture the day before. But he also explained the difference between divergent thinking and convergent thinking, which is basically like divergent thinking is what we were doing with the puzzles, which was every single option you can think of. And then convergent thinking is like, we could do that, but we can't because of money, or time, or effort, or you get the idea. And finally, we've got to see the George Méliès Google Doodle, which was basically was an animation, a 360 video animation of all of his work, which was good because it reminded me of where I'd seen the Journey to the Moon bullet eye thing, because I definitely saw that and I didn't know what it was, but I'd been told about it before in a science class of all things, I think, and so I just wanted to check it out, and I didn't understand any of it, but it was good to finally have that context again. So yeah, I'm not sure why I'm getting so excited about George Méliès and understanding a Google Doodle that I watched a few years ago, but anyway. And finally, we got some more homework. So for this piece, we have to go on a website and we have to find an animated job and then think of 3 things we can do in our lives to bring us closer to achieving that job. But because they've given us a specific website, I don't think they're going to have Legend or World Dominator on that website. So that's a bit unfortunate. So at the end of the week, or actually no, this is on Monday, so the start of the next one, if I had a time machine, I would go back and get some more help in Maya because I wasn't exactly stuck because I knew what I had to do, it just wasn't working that well. So I would have talked to someone about that so I could see what the problem was, and if it was something I could do to fix it, then learn from that mistake. And I'd also remind myself to wear a thicker jacket when I went outside, because I'm getting into a habit of going outside and saying, yeah, it's not that cold, and then 5 minutes when I'm hugging myself to keep warm, I'll be going, yeah, I should have bought a jacket. So, yeah. If I may use a cupcake metaphor, this week was sort of like going into a shop and seeing a cupcake and all the ingredients look promising, but then you start eating it and it doesn't really taste right. And some of the flavours are sort of repeated. So in the end, you just sort of get a meh cupcake. Now, excuse me. I'm gonna go make Mummy proud.